So my love of Africa started when my family took a trip to Africa when I was 13. So that was 2005. And we went over there to go on a safari trip, and it turned into so much more. I was in the process of preparing for my bat mitzvah and was also looking for a mitzvah project and hadn't come up with one yet. Um, so while we were on our trip, I was practicing my Torah portion, loving the animals, and simultaneously like, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to give back?
Mhm.
And one part of our trip led us on a horseback ride because I was a competitive equestrian at that time. So I was like, I have to ride while I'm in Africa and be able to say that I did.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember that day. I remember waking up that day and being like annoyed that my iPod wasn't working and just like being really frustrated. So that was how I started the day. And then we're on this horseback ride. We're going through a village, and all of a sudden I got to see like how people were living. And I saw these huge smiles on everybody's faces. And all of a sudden, like that made me take note. I'm like, okay, I have this judgment that people are living with so little, and yet they're happier than I've ever seen anybody. And so, as this couple-hour ride continues, we end up passing this giant field, and there were like hundreds of kids in this field sitting in different like sections. And I asked our guide, what are they doing? He's like, oh, this is their school. Kids will travel up to 5 miles a day to come here to receive their education. And being a 13-year-old at the time, I was like, who didn't really want to go to school. I'm
Right.
like, kids are walking 5 miles a day to sit in the sun in a field to learn. Like, it was just such a life-changing moment for me to all of a sudden be like, oh my God, I take so much for granted. And um and to truly see like how I'd I hadn't been valuing the education that was just so rightfully given to me, and that just shifted everything for me. And um I went back home that night to our tent and I said to my parents, like, I know what I want to do. I want to build a school in Africa. I want to build a school in that field so these kids have a place to go every day. And initially, that started with the goal of I want to raise $20,000 to build a one-room schoolhouse. And that quickly expanded as people started donating right off the bat. And then I hit the $20,000, and that kept growing until ultimately I raised $500,000. And our project went from a one-room school in Africa until ultimately it's now four different schools in three different countries in Africa with 1,500 students in them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it
I
was,
didn't I knew that you had a background in like philanthropy and you had this I didn't realize it was at that scale. That's amazing, Devon.
yeah, it was really, it was huge and it was so exciting. And for me, it was like, it still feels surreal to a degree because then I obviously had a lot of my parents' support and like my our family friends' support and everything, but it was just like a huge growth moment for me in the sense of not only did it completely shift the way that I looked at the world in a way that I still, that's how I walk around differently now, is because I remind myself that like this idea that we need more in order to be happy is actually just not true. and and then just the thing too is I believe people really do want to give. They often just don't know exactly how to or where to put their money. And when like people can come together and say like, hey, we figured out a way that we can give you the opportunity to give back in a way that you know that your money is actually going towards real good, and here's how and here's why, it like then it I think it just the cycle really begins. I'm just looking forward to the Winter Gala in general because I've never been, which is
Oh.
hilarious. That it was like I'd love to get more involved because I'll actually be in town this time, and
Mhm.
I haven't been, which just is wild to me that like my family's gone, but I've just always been out of town for it. And so I'm so excited to get to experience it, and especially having been on like the planning side and getting to be on part of the meetings. It's been so fun, and I'm grateful that I get to offer a perspective of somebody who's been to a decent amount of galas, of also like remembering like here's what's important, here are the things that people like don't even pay attention to. And because it's of course that's a normal part of planning, is like worrying about every little detail, which while it's important at the same time, like the experience that's going to happen at the gala is so unique that um the main focus is going to be like on the music and the upcoming trip to Africa and on the people that are there, because coming to the gala is such a great way to meet people who have similar interests and who really care about um, helping the planet and helping other people. And so I love going to events like this that really are truly heart led and have a great team. And like Sarah's just done such a great job over the years of really cultivating a family. And so it'll be nice to just be around other people that have been involved with her since the beginning to like more recently, or even just hearing about it, because I believe like if you're called to come to this, it's an opportunity to meet more of your people. And so I'm excited to get to actually do that too.